Throughout all 4 years of high school, I was forced to compete against biological males. I only competed against them in sprinting events, but I raced against these athletes over a dozen times throughout the years, and every single time I lost.
We're now requiring social media networks to monitor and report hateful conduct on their platforms.
Recommending that travelers now wear masks.
Dr. Mike, are you kidding me?
The CDC has recommended masks once again. New York has passed some pretty interesting gun laws. I don't think it's going to stop anything. And also Matt Walsh of the documentary What is a Woman, the acclaimed documentary, joins us later to talk about his new documentary of asking the question, what is a woman? All that and more coming up on this episode of Daily Caller Live. My name is Jobob. Daily Caller Live starts right now.
3, 2, 1.
Here we go!
Might be the only brown guy on earth named Jobob.
That is actually their name, Jobob.
Live from the dingy bunker, completely cut off from the outside world, except for you fine folks. My name is Jobob. This is Daily Caller Live. Thanks so much for tuning in on today. It is June 7th, the year of our Lord 2022. Brand new you in 22. Got a lot of interesting stuff coming up. I want to start off with this gun stuff going on in New York, passing some pretty restrictive laws and some pretty draconian laws. If you don't know what's going on there, stay tuned. Also, Matt Walsh is going to chat with us. Chatted with him yesterday, so we'll play the quick little interview there and show a clip from his brand new movie of What is a Woman? And lastly, want to talk about the CDC re-recommending mask mandates. So there's that. I want to get to this first. New York gun restrictions signed into law by Governor Kathy Hochul. Let me play this clip first. So, of course, with the terrible shootings, there's always a reaction to do something. Unfortunately, none of those do something moments really ever result in anything that would help whatsoever, because specifically, I think the only thing that surrounds the quote unquote mass shooting crisis, not quote unquote, it's actually the only thing that surrounds the mass shooting crisis that we have in the United States is gun control. Nobody talks about anything else. Nobody talks about the culture of young men settling disputes with firearms, minor disputes with firearms. Nobody talks about the mental health crisis. Nobody talks about all of the other components. The only thing they focus on, laser focused, is gun control. Watch this from Governor Kathy Hochul. She signed into law, and we'll talk about what the laws actually do. I think there's like 21 different laws. Watch this.
In New York, we are taking bold, strong action. We're tightening the red flag laws to keep guns away from dangerous people. And we're raising the age of semi-automatic weapons so no 18-year-old can walk in on their birthday and walk out with an AR-15. Those days are over. Those days are over. You hear that? Those days are over.
Okay, so, well, hashtag fact check here. Those days were never in existence, or at least weren't for the longest time. New York has a background check that generally takes 3 days. Let me read this. This is an article from 2019. New York is extending the waiting period for certain gun purchases from 3 days to 30 days to give authorities more time to run background checks. The change signed into law by Democrat Governor Andrew Cuomo, Gropey Cuomo, will apply to when a federal instant background check returns inconclusive results for a potential gun buyer. So, up until yesterday, the gun waiting period was, I think, 3 days when the background check was being issued in New York State. So when she says no 18-year-old can, no 18-year-old can go walk into a store and walk out with an AR-15, that wasn't the case ever at any point. So there's that. And also, if you failed your initial background check, you had to wait 30 days. So that's already a law in New York. What this law will do, under its new laws, it will be more difficult to purchase firearms and body armor. Oh, so this is another interesting, freaking fascinating component of this. Let me read from Kathy Hochul's tweet. Today, I am proud to sign a comprehensive bill package that, among other reforms, bans semi-automatic gun sales to people under 21. Okay, so I guess handguns is already listed in there. I think she's talking about rifles, so clearly people under 21. Okay, so there's several issues with that. One, it's a constitutional amendment. So you're officially taking away from adults in the United States. And two, one of the biggest things that I have an issue with, or think that all of us have an issue with, is so you can volunteer for the U.S. military, get sent off to war, and use all kinds of weapons and guns. But when you come back and you're 20 years old, you can't legally purchase a firearm at all, right? Because if 21, banning semi-automatic guns, if handguns are already banned and rifles are now banned in the state of New York, you can't purchase a gun at 21 until you're 21. So again, if you volunteer for the military, thank you for your service, and go serve overseas and use weapons, you won't be. You have to give up the ability to use those, or the right to use those weapons, until you're 21 in the state of New York. That's interesting. But the more interesting thing, not even more interesting, just also interesting, is bans body armor sales except for those in select professions. I wonder if the governor's security detail is in that selected profession. This one I don't understand at all. I understand the reasoning behind it. Their thought is, well, if you ban body armor, then people won't be able to, potential shooters won't be able to get body armor, and therefore can get taken out sooner if they go shoot up anywhere. But then clearly on the other side is, okay, well, what about all of the other people that want to wear body armor or that have body armor? And what constitutes as the selected profession? Who gets to decide if, well, your profession makes sense for you to buy body armor, so therefore you get to have it? A lot of not very exciting things going on in New York. It also requires microstamping for new semi-automatic guns. I'll be honest with you, I'm not entirely sure what microstamping is, but from what it sounds like, is a way for the government to track your firearms, which is not cool, and strengthens our red flag law. Okay, so here's Hochul talking about the quote-unquote red flag law and how it's going to pertain to gun purchases, and also how it interacts with social media. And this is the thing, this is one of the bigger things I have a massive issue with. Watch this.
And in the state of New York, we're now requiring social media networks to monitor and report hateful conduct on their platforms. Thank you, Senator Anna Kaplan, and thank you, Assigned Member Patricia Fahey.
Okay, so right there, she's saying we're requiring social media to report any hateful behavior. I don't know what that means. And this is the problem I've had with this entire thing. I don't know what any of this stuff means. What is hateful? I tweeted back at the governor and said, I hate this legislation. I'm not sure if that's going to get me reported or not. I used the word hate, and I actually do hate the legislation. Is that going to get me on some sort of New York red flag warning list? Like, I don't know. What is hateful? And clearly nobody defines it, or at least publicly. I'm sure there's some sort of thing in the bill that says, well, if professionals decide that this is hateful, then it's hateful. Okay, who are those professionals? What are their credentials? How partisan are those hacks? These are the big problems with bills like this. We can go into more of this article in depth, but I'd rather not. Instead, I want to talk about something kind of not fun, but more interesting. The biggest film, at least, no, I don't want to say the biggest film because it's not. The documentary that is generating a ton of buzz recently, that was released last week, I believe June 1st, is the documentary from Matt Walsh and Daily Wire called What is a Woman? I've got a clip for you to play, and then also Matt Walsh, got to talk to him yesterday, so we'll play that interview right after this clip. Watch this. This is a short minute 30 clip from the documentary. If you haven't seen it already, it's fascinating. You should go watch it, but until then, watch this.
The first race
that I competed against a transgender athlete was during my freshman year. And once the gun went off, the two transgender athletes took off flying and left all of us girls in the dust. Throughout all 4 years of high school, I was forced to compete against biological males. I only competed against them in the sprinting events, but I raced against these athletes over a dozen times throughout the years, and every single time I lost.
Did they inch you out of medals that you would have won otherwise, or trophies you would have won?
They beat me out by 20 meters out of medals, and qualifying spots, I missed out on qualifying for New England's. I had to go in the long jump and the 4x200 meter relay, so I was forced on the sidelines in my own event, and if they were not there, I would have been able to qualify. So I missed out on so much throughout my high school career.
Did they win all the events or almost all the events?
Between the two of them, they won every single event they competed in.
How does that feel?
It is so frustrating and heartbreaking because we elite female athletes train so hard to shave just fractions of a second off of our time. And going into races knowing that we will never be able to win.
Feels like all that work gone to waste?
It does. After so many losses, it just gets to the point of, why am I even doing this? Why am I keep training so hard and sacrificing so much just to place third and beyond?
So that is a clip from the brand new documentary that's out on the Daily Wire. If you get a chance, go and you got to subscribe to the Daily Wire. It's worth it. The documentary is awesome. Got a chance to sit down with Mr. Walsh yesterday. So yeah, we'll just go ahead and roll right into this. Here's my my conversation with Matt regarding his documentary yesterday afternoon. Now on Daily Caller Live is critically acclaimed children's author and host of the Matt Walsh Show. It's Matt Walsh. He's also got a brand new documentary. Matt, how you doing?
Doing great. How are you?
Can't complain. So first off, I want to talk about this whole transgender movement has kind of really come to fruition for a lot of America pretty recently with the Olympic weightlifter, Leah Thomas, the swimmer. But you've been on this for a couple years. How did it get started for you, this idea of what is a woman?
Yeah, well, gender ideology in general has been, you could trace its origins, as we do in the film, you trace its origins back to the mid-20th century, or even earlier than that, if you want to go back really sort of philosophically. But I think it was kind of bubbling under the surface for most people for decades, really, as it kind of made its way into the institutions. And for me, kind of the moment of seeing gender ideology as a real threat was probably around the time of Bruce Jenner coming out as Caitlyn Jenner and being declared Woman of the Year, and what was seeing that and how it's sort of being accepted in the mainstream. But then also I noticed at the time, this was back in, I don't know, I think it was 2015 or something. I noticed at the time that there weren't very many conservative voices, it seemed to me, that were coming out passionately against this and saying, no, this is crazy. We can't have a male being declared Woman of the Year. And that was, for me, was a moment where I became very worried about it, because I saw not only is this now being accepted in the mainstream, but there doesn't appear to be the kind of pushback against it that there should be. So now it's just going to run sort of roughshod and take over society, which is exactly what happened.
Totally. Now, as somebody who also tries to use humor in talking about the current events of the day, how blurry is the line between we should make fun of this and ridicule it out of existence to, holy cow, this is a serious issue that needs to be talked about seriously? Where do you find that line for what it is that you're doing?
I think of less like lines, more like sort of layers, right? So on the surface level of this issue, there's a whole lot of just absurdity, and it is perfectly appropriate and correct to laugh at absurdity. But then when you go a little bit deeper, you see that there's something very sinister lurking underneath it, and that's when it becomes much more serious. You kind of see that reflected in the way that the film is set up, that in the first part of it, as we're kind of scratching at the surface of this problem, there are a lot of pretty funny moments, but then as we go a little bit deeper, it gets a lot more serious when you see what's really at stake.
Now, I got a chance to watch it. Hilarious, by the way. Well, hilarious and also informative. So great job on that. Was there a moment, or how close did you get to breaking that serious character when some of the absurdities were being talked at you. It kind of seemed like a couple moments where it was like, oh, maybe he's going to crack a smile here. How close did you get?
I mean, there were quite a few times, being in face. I mean, certainly going to Africa and talking to the tribe there, it was just something. You want to talk about absurdity? Just the position that we had put ourselves in of we're halfway across the world, we're down deep in like the African bush, we're talking to a traditional tribe about gender fluidity. It's just such an absurd, outrageous sort of thing. But I tried to, I thought even there, in order to get the kind of authentic reaction that we want out of them, I had to kind of play it straight, and we didn't pull them ahead. I didn't pull them aside ahead of time and say, hey, by the way, I don't believe any of this stuff in real life. We showed up and we just started talking to them and got the reaction from them.
That's interesting. Now, obviously, there's been a massive reception to the documentary. Where do you see this conversation playing out in the next couple weeks, months, even years? Where does it go from here? Do you think it gets more inflamed, or do you think a lot of people are going to start realizing, oh, yeah, this is insanity?
I think we're going to see there's going to be more of a stark division. I think that the left is going to become more entrenched, even more radical, because that's always their response to everything. That's their natural course, I think, in general, but especially when they're challenged, they kind of tend to double down, become more radical. So I think we're going to find that on gender ideology with the left. But I do see the beginnings of a spark of a backlash finally against this, where people, and not just like conservatives and pundits like me, but just kind of normal people are starting to speak up a little bit more. And so I think we're going to see that kind of separation happen around this issue, as there should be.
Interesting. Well, you definitely tend to be the guy at the forefront of all of it. The documentary is called What is a Woman, Matt? How can they watch it?
Go to whatiswoman.com and get signed up for a membership with the Daily Wire and watch the film.
Awesome, man. Well, thanks so much for your time. Stay safe out there.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
So that was our conversation with Matt Walsh yesterday. Kind of interesting stuff. If you haven't watched the movie already, again, there's a couple moments in there, I think I mentioned it when I was talking to him yesterday, that it seems like he was so close to busting up laughing, but didn't. Spoiler alert, did not do that. Speaking of busting up laughing, check this out. The CDC has reissued recommendations for wearing masks for travelers to avoid monkeypox. I thought this clip from, I believe it's a news outlet in Philadelphia, was pretty indicative of how I think about the CDC, how I think of the CDC and issuing new recommendations for masks. Watch this and we'll discuss.
Okay, 6:51. The CDC has raised its alert level for monkeypox to level 2, recommending that travelers now wear masks.
We're all
Dr.
this guy.
Mike, are you kidding me? This is for monkeypox.
Yeah. Look, can monkeypox be spread from respiratory droplets? Yes. The main way, though, is close contact, people living together, body fluids, that sort of thing. So I think they're just being very, very cautious.
So that's the problem with the CDC, is they've been very, very cautious for way too freaking long. The Centers of Disease Control Take two. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention upgraded the monkeypox alert to a level 2 on Monday, advising travelers to practice enhanced precautions, including wearing a mask. The CDC advised wearing masks after closely monitoring cases of monkeypox that have become lately reported in numerous numbers in countries, including the United States, reports Fox News. The agency appears to have updated its website, erasing any direction advising travelers to wear masks. So they said wear masks. Now they're saying don't wear masks. They've erased that. They said wearing masks. Instead, the CDC recommends travelers to avoid close personal contact with infected people. Yeah, don't kiss infected monkeypox people. There's that. Wash your hands with soap and water and avoid touching your eyes and or mouth. The U.S. has 31 confirmed cases of monkeypox, according to the CDC. The agency reported several states with confirmed cases, including California, Florida, Georgia, Hawaii, Illinois, New York, Pennsylvania, Virginia, and Washington. So there's that. I'm not entirely sure what else to. You know what? I want to get back to this doctor. He says some funny things. Let's listen to him one more time.
Kiss, perhaps.
I know you do.
And if you had kissed the person next to you, I mean, if I was sitting on a plane with you, Michael, I might give you a big hug and a kiss, perhaps.
I know you do.
And if you had monkeypox, I could get it.
Right.
Would I wear a mask? I don't. Look, they're just being very, very cautious.
I'm going to wear a mask on an airplane.
This is not.
Yeah. Maybe for the rest of my life.
Well, I look better when I cover up. I'm going that way.
But we should remind people that, you know, not many have died from it this go-round.
Right.
No.
It's not.
This is not COVID.
Right.
This is not COVID. They're getting immunizations out. And look, I personally am not worried about this. I think that we have to keep an eye on it and make sure that we do the right thing.
We won't worry either.
So the end part of that makes me kind of worried. We got to keep an eye on it and make sure we do the right thing. Don't leave it up to the CDC to decide what the right thing is. It's getting exhausting, guys. Honestly, getting exhausting, and I know you feel it too. So I'll save my not theatrics, save my complaining, because I'm sure everybody else is feeling that way. That's going to do it for us today. Dang it, there's so much stuff to get to. I don't have time to cram it all into this show. So maybe we'll talk about it more tomorrow. Joe Biden said some hilarious things. If you want to see some commentary on that, you can follow me on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Getter, True Social, Ibble, any of the other social media platforms. At JOBOB, just type in JOBOB, you'll pretty much be able to find me. But got some fun commentary coming up from the President of the United States today. So be on the lookout for any of that. If you missed any segment of the show, you can rewatch on Facebook, YouTube. You can also grab the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. Had an interesting conversation with Matt Walsh, and also talked about his documentary a little bit in case you're just joining us. So you can rewatch, again, anywhere you watch this show or listen to the podcast. It's going to do it for us today. We'll see you tomorrow, same time, same place. Anything else happening? That's it. See you then. God bless America.